Let's talk pharmaceuticals and healthcare. As we've seen the sector firm up, the market is looking for the next big treatments. One of those is in the neurodegenerative category, where Dr. Reddy's has teamed up with U.S.-based Coya, clinical stage biopharmaceutical company. Dr. Reddy's is an India-based international pharma business, and joining us, the team up between Marc Kikuchi, the CEO, and Howard Berman, the CEO at Coya Therapeutics. Marc's the CEO of North America Generics at Dr. Reddy's. Gentlemen, thanks for being here with us this afternoon. You guys are doing some really interesting work. Both your stocks have done very well over the past year. I do think part of this is due to that combination. You guys announced a partnership a year ago. Marc, start us off in telling us about that partnership and where you guys are in particularly your neurodegenerative process right now.
Sure. Thank you, Oliver, for having us on today. This is really an exciting opportunity for us to continue our evolution as a company. Just a real brief background for those that may not be familiar with Dr. Reddy's. We're celebrating our 40th anniversary as a company. We started off as a chemical company, moved into generics, and now we're moving into novel therapeutics, especially with our partnership with Coya Therapeutics. Our goal, and Dr. Reddy's goal when he founded the company, was to address unmet needs. And as we know, ALS is a neurodegenerative disease that just doesn't have many alternatives to it. And with the combination of Coya's product and our product, we believe that this could be a novel therapy.
Tell us about the product, Howard, that you guys are working on. I think insidious is the word that often gets associated with ALS. It's mystified scientists for a long time. And in the category generally, as we think about investors for big healthcare themes, neurodegenerative diseases is certainly a huge category. Why the pair up from your guys' perspective?
Great, thank you. I would say the most important thing to realize is this is a combination biologic, meaning that it is a combination of two different drugs, low-dose interleukin-2, which ramps up anti-inflammatory cells. The other component is CTLA-4, which is what Dr. Reddy's manufactures. So Dr. Reddy's makes one of the components of the drugs, which is why Reddy's was a natural partner for Coya Therapeutics. I will say that the reason we believe that this drug is going to make a meaningful difference is that it targets multiple pathways, inflammatory pathways, and ALS is such an incessant disease driven by a complex pathophysiology. And unless you target this complex inflammatory environment and pathophysiology, it's hard to treat this condition. And so that's why putting synergistic agents together, which is what Coya 302 is doing, we think it's going to make a meaningful difference. And we've seen some very exciting clinical data to date.
Tell us about the data. What's the latest?
We've run an early study in a cohort of patients, who were declining prior to treatment. And remarkably, the patients very, very quickly stopped that decline. There was a cessation of progression, and that continued out into 6 months. And there was a meaningful difference even out to 1 year, which is typically, you don't see that in ALS because of an incessant decline month after month. And so what we're trying to do now, and what we are going to do, is to run a randomized double-blind trial, which is going to compare the active arm, which is Coya 302, to placebo. And we're very fortunate to work with Dr. Reddy's in this trial.
Tell us about the trial process, Marc, and generally, what is that process in dealing with a disease that so far hasn't found a lot of successful treatments? How do you know what steps to take? How do you know how to run the trials? Is this going to be something that is breakthrough in terms of the process? So what do we know about kind of testing and analyzing the results around ALS?
So there is a standardized score that we use to measure the progression of the disease of ALS. And with the combination of our clinical expertise as well as Coya's clinical expertise, we have combined our resources to create the most efficient mechanism to demonstrate a significant difference between the placebo and the Coya 302 product. And the goal is that with a modest clinical trial that we hope to start in the second quarter of this year, we'll be able to show statistically significant difference here and hopefully the next 12 to 18 months after we start those clinical trials.
Okay, so the timeline here is still fairly early on in the going. Is that a fair way to describe it, Marc?
Yes. Again, we saw the data. We had met with Coya several months ago, and we looked at the data. We analyzed it. We were very excited about the potential combination of our two drugs and our two corporations because Coya brings a lot of technical expertise. We bring a lot of the clinical and the commercial expertise. So that's why, again, we think this is a great combination. Coya will be driving most of the clinical efforts, and we'll be there supporting with our product, but also with our other capabilities that we have.
The drug and the treatment, tell us about how it works, Howard, in terms of actual administering the drug and coming back to some of the science behind it. I think would be helpful as we try and kind of figure out how this disease begins and how to stop it. I mean, this is basically to stop it from progressing worse, right?
Yes. So this is a drug that is it's a simple to administer subcutaneous injection. You take it out of the fridge and you, just like an insulin injection, can inject underneath the skin. So it has a good product profile. But from a mechanistic standpoint, it's not just indicated, in our opinion, for ALS. It's for multiple conditions. It's for potentially for Parkinson's, for Alzheimer's, for frontotemporal dementia, and many other diseases that are driven by multiple components, one of them being a regulatory T cell dysfunction, a Treg we call it for short. That is a type of immune cell that is not working properly in ALS and these other neurodegenerative conditions. And unfortunately, there are other immune components that are also compromised. So this drug, this combination works to suppress these multiple components. And by doing so, you're able to reduce the oxidative stress, the inflammation, and it prevents the neurons from dying and the axons from dying. And that is what we believe underlies these conditions and the decline that you see in these patients.
Okay. In terms of the rate, I mean, it's a fairly rare disease, but correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to be showing up more. Does that mean that you will be able to find patients to proceed with the trials? And what has that reception been like in terms of the way patients are willing to take part in this? Either you guys, whoever would like to answer that.
Yeah, I can take that, Marc.
Perfect.
I can take that initially on the development side. We're confident that we'll be able to enroll and recruit because of the huge unmet need and the dramatic interest of patients and patient advocacy groups and physicians. We're in touch with some of the top thought leaders around the country. We're planning this in North America, both in the United States and Canada. And we're really far along in that process with our CRO. We're confident we'll enroll, and we'll enroll quickly and efficiently. And of course, we're working with Dr. Reddy's to make this a seamless process.
Okay, Marc, if you wanted to elaborate, then also kind of tell us, it might be further down the road to think about commercialization, but how much visibility you have on that front?
So, Oliver, just to give you a quick statistic, is there's roughly 30,000 patients a year in the United States that have ALS, and about 5,000 new patients are identified each year. Unfortunately, because this is such a large unmet need, that population continues to reside around 30,000 in the U.S. because people are passing away from the disease. You reach out into Europe, there's about 40,000 patients, and in Canada, there's 3,000 patients. So the opportunity when you come to commercialization is this is a highly concentrated area where there's probably less than 150 key practitioners that treat the vast majority of these ALS patients. And so with this rare designation, we expect to be able to get to these patients very quickly if the trials result in a successful outcome.
Okay, very encouraging, very exciting, guys. Thanks for the details on it, and obviously wishing you the best as I think everybody's rooting for you. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll definitely be paying close attention. Marc Kikuchi, CEO of North America Generics at Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. By the way, an ADR, publicly traded here, as we saw the stocks as well. And Howard Berman, CEO at Coya Therapeutics. Both shares moving on hopes that this will be a major breakthrough for, of course, in terrible disease, savage disease, and applications beyond ALS, including Parkinson's. Just took the life of the beloved comedian Richard Lewis.